spiritual awakening will ruin your life, and that is the best thing that can happen. I want to make this video because if you're like most people, at some point you wonder, or maybe not even consciously, but you don't want to ruin your life. So you try not to ruin your life. And you do maybe some spiritual practices from within that context where you don't want to ruin your life. Maybe you do some meditation from within that context where you don't want to ruin your life. And so this is so important to consider, because once you realize that ruining your life is not bad, but it's actually the best thing that can happen, then you will lose that fear of ruining your life, and you're actually free without that context to move naturally towards what happens next, to create natural momentum without being attached to specific outcomes. My name is Liv Kissper. I'm a best-selling author in the field of non-duality and transpersonal coach, transformative coach with background in transpersonal psychology and consciousness studies. And I guide and coach self-improvement enthusiasts and spiritual seekers who are exhausted from the search, who have been on the journey for a long time and still feel like there is something missing. And so today I specifically want to speak about the survival story, because it's so important. Without knowing what your survival story is, how do you know what is the best for you? How do you know that what you're trying to achieve, what your desires, where they're coming from? How do you know that it's not just a part of a survival story? And so what is the survival story in the first place? The self-identification, the self-identity, it's basically the person who we believe we are. It's the voice in the head that tells you, I am something, and I have a past, I have a certain future. This self-identity doesn't come from nothing, it's not just now in a vacuum. It comes from it's a whole story that stretches from since when you were born. For some people, even before, if you believe in past lives, it doesn't matter. It's just a whole story until the day when you die, or even beyond, if you believe afterlife. It doesn't matter. It's just a story. And so this self is just a role, but we can't help but believe this is who we truly are. This whole context, it comes from context of survival story. It tries to survive. It doesn't care about being alive, living in the moment. It doesn't care about reality. Its only purpose is to survive. The surviving only happens in the future, and it already has an idea about what that survival would look like. And that idea comes from the past, because in the past, in that story, the self got hurt. Either, there's just so many traumatic experiences that happens to the self. Anytime when it feels unsafe, not approved of, insecure, and is not safe to express its emotions, suppresses the emotion, and poof, there it is, takes life on its own, and it pretends that it's you. So that self creates a story. It's basically a set of rules and things you have to do, things you have to achieve in this life in order to survive. And of course, the whole story is a complete BS. It's not based on anything real, but it appears that is 100% real. For the self-identity, if you don't do these things, for some people is to make a certain amount of money, or to maintain a good self-image, to look good in front of others, to meditate, to finally achieve enlightenment, like whatever it is, or even daily things, like I cannot make a mistake, I have to do this right. It's not based on anything real. It's just based on the past, and it's constantly being projected into the future. So it's just within the realm of duality, past, future. There is no now experience. There is just no truth in it. And so Why does it feel so limiting when we are in that surviving story? First, because we are, of course, disconnected from what is real. We are disconnected from our true nature. And to live within the survival story, that means that you are surviving. That you have an idea what your life should look like, and you're living within that bubble. And every time you want to get outside of that comfort zone, it feels really threatening. And the mind tells you, don't go there. It creates excuses why you need to postpone it until later, why you cannot do it, why you shouldn't. It already tells you a story about the consequences that will happen to you if you do that. And of course, it's such a BS. It really has nothing to do with reality. In reality, you don't know what one thing will lead to another thing or what will happen in the long term. You know, maybe sometimes something good happened to you and you thought, this is great for me. But then in the long run, it has bad consequences. So the truth is that we cannot know, but the identity knows because it has a story about it. And so it creates this virtual reality life where basically it's a prison and the door is open, but it creates stories why it should never leave that prison. It creates a life where it just decorates the prison. It makes it look really comfortable and cozy and nice. It paints the wall. You know, it makes it nice and secure. It makes it reliable and predictable, but it's still just one cell. And so when I said spiritual awakening will ruin your life, that means that will ruin your life as you know it. It will ruin this cell life. It will show you that the door has always been open. The freedom has been always available. It's just that devotion to be in that prison was real. Nothing else was real. And the self-identity is extremely afraid of what happens outside of that prison because it's uncertain. And it lives on predictability. It just needs control. It needs to know what to do based on what? The story, the surviving story. But the moment you start venturing outside of that prison into the unknown and into what's outside of your expectations, what's outside of your personal rules, your personal worldview, stories, it's just, there is a fulfillment in that. There is aliveness there. There is freedom, but it doesn't feel like something that you had to achieve. It feels just so natural. And so, yeah, for the self-identity, ruining your life feels so scary because it imagines that ruining your life, it would be the death of it. It wouldn't survive. Something bad would happen. It needs to have certain things. And if your survival story is to have a good job, good salary, predictable salary, having a wife, a house, children, you know, all of these things, and some of those things don't happen the way you want it, it will feel absolutely terrible. But it's only based on those expectations, because the person who wouldn't have that expectations, they wouldn't feel bad about it, of course. So the life that you truly desire, everything you've ever wanted deeply, beyond the superficial desires from the self-identity, lies outside of those stories, lies outside of that survival story. And the moment you step outside of that comfort zone, the story just loses. It's, that prison, just the bricks just start falling. And when I coach people, it's so important to actually make those steps, because a lot of times, healing is all about, spirituality, healing, meditation. It's all about having those insights. And as I'm saying, decorating your prison, doing affirmations, inner child healing, therapy, understanding your past, your childhood. And it's great. It really can make you feel more comfortable. It makes you fit in within a society. It makes you function okay for a while. But the deeper being that you really are just feels that disconnection. And it perpetuates, the self-identity will always perpetuate the search. And what you truly desire is finally ending the searching and just arriving, just being. Having enough, being enough, and just acting from that place spontaneously. And that act really only happens one step at a time. It's unpredictable. It's unimaginable. I don't know what I'm going to say next. I don't even know what I'm going to do next. But it's not needed to know. So when your life gets ruined in that way, something else takes place instead. And as I said, it's unexpected. It's outside of your survival story. But when you exchange the search for true seeing, you have access to see how abundant that is, how free that already is, how many opportunities are available, that completion, that fullness, that wholeness. It can look like anything, without the stories that tell you what will it lead to, what the consequences will be. You can notice, even if you break up with somebody, even if your leg gets cut off, there's so many things that happen. And without the stories, without that identification, the one who is searching for that fulfillment and peace, without the one who is only concerned about surviving to the next moment, the future. That wholeness looks like being with no leg. It looks like being without a partner. It looks like exactly what it is like, because nothing needs to be added to it. And you're able to see the beauty and the opportunities right there, exactly where you are in your life. Not where you should be, not where you will be in the future, but exactly as it is now. Without the stories that compare this moment and this life to something else, something what it should be and could be in the future. This is already perfection. There's nothing needs to be fixed. If there was anything to be fixed, it's that perception, that seeing, that recognition that the perfection is only missing because it's being veiled by a story that always tells you it should be different. So yeah, if spiritual awakening ruins your life as you know it, it's always the best thing. Why? Because that's how it is. And it doesn't need to be any different. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to dive deeper into this, you can download a free chapter of my book, The End of Your Story, which will look deeper into the search, into what spiritual awakening really is, and into the underlying stories, especially the most restricting story that has been maybe running in your life. And there is a link in the description. So this book is definitely a great way to start your seeing, which you can exchange for that never-ending search. And if it ruined your life as you know it, then the moment it happens, it will be already recognized that it's the best thing that could have ever happened. But I understand the self-identification would fight for its life. That's why I talk about oblique awakening in this book, because awakening itself cannot just be pursued directly, because the mind is so sneaky, so we have to go in an oblique way to bypass the clever stories and excuses and assumptions and expectations of that identity. And for that, the book is giving you the exact template, how to do it, to give you access to that seeing and what is actually available to you beyond the story that you've been telling yourself.